Yeah, Ursula is the host.
Yeah. Hello, Oscar.
Hi, Mark. Hi. Good to see you again.
Very good to see you.
Yeah.
So, we ready to go? Ursula? Okay, let's go. So, thank you for having me to be facilitating a session. And what I've done that backs this up is made a paper, a discussion paper, which I know that Ursula and Oscar have made available to IRC licensees through the blog. It's on LinkedIn also, and I've published through Medium, so it's on Medium if you need to find it there. And I've done the 5 do's and 3 don'ts for webinar facilitation, because everybody seems to have to have a number of things, you know, like the 10 best somethings. And so I thought I'll join the crowd. Not that I'm someone who enjoys doing what everyone else does, but today I decided to. Really what we're talking about is what's successful in webinars. So I want to make a couple of things to start with as a theory. So I'm not repeating what's in the paper. Go read the paper. And it has more than what is here. But I wanted to start with a bit of a theoretical point of view, because I spent 10 years laboring over a doctorate to think some of these things through, at least beyond the surface level. And the real thing that appealed to me in my research was the notion that what we do when we're online is we're projecting our normal selves onto this new location, which is somehow in the cloud or some other universe or on another planet. We don't know where it is. We don't have a sense of where it is, but we're projecting our location or our sense of ourselves onto this. So in terms of what we want to do, the positivist thing is, what are we going to project? What are we going to say that our projective self is? And what will people see? So the very first thing that we want to project is we want to do what we did today. We experimented today with this, and we can have our opinions about whether it was successful or not, or whether it suited some people or not others. But we want to take time. We want to take time to introduce the group and understand the situation. The primary situation is your situation, because you're leading this. But the respectful thing to do is to understand as much about everyone else's situation as they can. One of the ways it's pretty easy to do that in Zoom is you can rename yourself. And you might notice some of us have renamed ourselves with our location. And I'm in Melbourne in Australia. So that's the first step. First do is to make a sense of location when there isn't one. The second step is to confront the various participatory styles, to not just assume that everyone's going to participate in the same way, but to acknowledge that people are able to participate how it suits them. There's nothing more frustrating for everybody, the facilitator and the participant, when they say, well, I did all the talking, or the facilitator did all the talking, or the PowerPoints went forever and I didn't get a chance to ask any questions or whatever. So making participation style clear. Some people call them learning styles and some people call them other types of styles. And, you know, and you can base this sense of style on anything. You could use emotional intelligence, you could use the Myers-Briggs scale, you could use the cultural competencies. But we all come with a style and we have ways of analysing style. And we want to acknowledge all styles and make everyone feel welcome. So the next thing is to use cues. I actually like using things like this, and hello, and let's do some exercises, and okay, or that'll be good, thank you, or no, don't do that. Can you see the effectiveness of hand gestures just when I do them? And there are many other cues. The idea is with your group, whether they're new or old, it's important to establish a set of cues, even if it is the most simple ones. Even if it's just to say, you know, please use the tool to raise your hand. Please behave in these ways associated with etiquette, but it's not just etiquette. Some of it is cues and the impression you want to give. You know, I like to put my glasses on. You know, I don't actually need them. That's the real me. but something in my ego says I look more studious. But you know, there's a problem with my glasses. Can you see the reflection? So there, I've discussed a weird cue, my glasses, okay? The reflection of my glasses is a bit annoying. I should get that fixed if I'm gonna do a lot of webinars, right? So I'll take my glasses off and then, whoa, that's a whole other person, right? Just a pair of glasses as a prop makes some kind of difference. I think almost everybody here has glasses. So I'll put them back on because it's just freaking me out, changing my identity so much. With such a little thing. So this notion of our identity, the cues we give, all of the things we as cultural licensees are sort of familiar with, they really matter in the webinar context. And we can't just assume people are going to behave in some sort of conformant way. So the next thing is, a respectful thing is to be organized. And having structure, some agility. Did you notice how we sent everybody off to the queue, to the mingle room, but Rika and Ursula and I stayed back and organized ourselves a little beforehand. And if I may comment on that experience, you know, most of what we discussed, Ursula and Rika, things like, well, who'll speak first and what will they say and what will you say about this? And that negotiating, we did that right at the last minute. And I would argue that's probably better done earlier than that normally. I hope you don't mind me observing our own behaviors in that way and reflecting on them. So that we were pretty well organized. We knew where we were going. But the more organized you are, the easier it is for everybody else to participate, especially true in a large number. So structure with agility, using other communication channels. You know, this concept of a back channel, right? I want to know what everyone's saying on Twitter behind my back about this, or if they're saying anything, or what if they're saying nothing? They're obviously doesn't matter. Like, has Donald Trump tweeted about this presentation yet? Is that made it to the public universe? There are other channels that are going on. People are emailing each other. Someone might have just emailed Ursula or Rick to say, I'm sorry, I just can't make it, you know. Paying attention to channels and monitoring the chat. All this is important to organize, even with very small groups. Moving on, plan interaction, and we've planned some today. Exercises, we did the pencil thing. And again, you can reflect on whether that was effective or not. Was it too short, too long? Did it reflect our need to have a bit of fun? What was it? Was there a better exercise, a worse one? And so on. Thing in breakout rooms is also to make sure there's planning for scribes and to make sure someone in a breakout is capturing the conversation and sharing it back. We all know how important that is in classroom facilitation. It is just as important online. And what I find is most people don't pay enough attention to that. If you're going to have a breakout room, you've got to respect what people have had to say to each other, unless you actually say, no, we're not coming back, just have a conversation with yourselves and there'll be no feedback at the end. But being organized about planned interactions is very important. All right, so here's our reflection on some of the don'ts. So there we've projected some things. There are many more things to talk about, but I've just picked five to start with. So here are 3 don'ts to don't do, things to reflect on and avoid. The first one is the notion of any kind of exclusion. And I think we've done a good job of trying to make people included. But you know, there are 25 people here. How many people can you count that you know were included so far? Can you think of that? Maybe it was 5 or 7 or 8. That means more than 50% of people, we are uncertain whether they were included in the exercise, right? And so this notion of being careful about who's included and who's excluded is very important. And embrace everybody, including the lurkers who just want to lurk on the outside, the people who their style is to listen, and the oversharers. Just in any classroom, you've got to embrace that. We have to do the same online. The other one is don't preach. And I've set a timer and I'm trying to speak for 10 minutes. And I would suggest if you're sharing something that goes for longer than 8 to 10 minutes, and I know you're all going to find this tough, then you're going to be preaching at people. And if you're going to do that, you've got to be very careful. 8, 10, 15 minutes max. Otherwise, you will have lost people and you'll lose them worse. on a webinar, but you probably were losing them anyway. You probably just didn't know that they were asleep in the classroom. I'm being funny. That's my Australian sense of humour, my sense of irony. But the point is, very careful not to preach at people. Be concise. Try and write the script before you start. I did here, and have practiced inputs. And you notice what I've done with this. I've done a discussion paper and I've done key points, which means the content volume is significant, but the experience is efficient. Let me say that again. The content volume is significant. It's as deep as you want to make it. I've put references in my paper. You can go real deep if you want to. But the experience is short, but concise. But the depth is in the thinking and so on. I hope that comes across as true. It's certainly my goal for this little talk. And so the next thing is to don't exhaust people. You want short inputs. And if there are long interactions, and we all have to be involved in webinars and Zoom sessions that maybe even go all day, you know, but it needs to, if it's going to go all day, then it needs to be like, you know, 6-hour sessions with 15-minute breaks and short structure and clear outcomes. And one of the big mistakes I think educators make is they think that their voice and their know-how is the number one thing that matters. Nothing could be further from the truth. The number one thing that matters is the collective wisdom of the group, and they can read your book. You don't have to read the book to everybody in the webinar, right? They can read your book. They can read your blog. What you want to do is hear from them, increase the knowledge from the session, increase the know-how, not just make it all about what you've got to say. So regular breaks, don't exhaust them. So we're going to have a breakout session, and I think I'm up to about 10 minutes. It's a bit more than my 8 minutes I was aiming for. But what I want you to do is, we're going to have some rules about the breakout session, but also potentially, if not today, please share one change. As you look through this door and you try and see something a little greener, please share one change with me, and that's my email address. I don't mind if it's tomorrow or next week. Just share one change that this conversation today and what we're about to do has inspired. How does that sound? What we're going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to hand back to Ursula, I think, or Rika, I'm not sure who actually, and one of them, and they're going to help tell us what we're going to do next. Okay.
Hello, now you should be back on sound. Yes, thanks very much, Mark. That was, right to the point, and also thanks for commenting immediately on how we were doing things, because that's, I think, what we're all going through these days, that we are learning all the time about how we're doing things, reflecting, going back, doing it better the next time. Not being afraid of the feedback we're getting from others. We need to seek feedback, yes. I'm gonna, what we thought of is to put you into small groups, breakout rooms of 3 people, which seems to be also the right number of people to have a fruitful exchange without losing the depth and the intimacy of a dialogue. And we're gonna give you 10 minutes to discuss what you're taking away from this, how this fits also into what you needed to learn, wanted to learn, where you are right now with this digital experience of giving webinars, training and teaching through webinars. So we're going to put you into, and I think I'm the host now. So first I'm going to